Hey everybody, it is day 17 of 31 and 31, and bless you back there. Um, and just finishing off Godzilla 1985, made in 1984. Well, in the US it's Godzilla 1905, and Japan it's the return of Godzilla. It's to commemorate the 30th anniversary of Gojira, which what we started this whole thing with. And it's back to the basics, folks. It's all of a sudden now, instead of Godzilla versus everybody, it's Godzilla versus humans, I guess. Coming back to be a sign of the nuclear age once again. But this time, this takes place, of course, in the 80s, and this is 10 years after we saw Godzilla fight the terror of Mechagodzilla with Titanosaurus. So, what's the basic story of this? We're back to reporters. We got a news reporter finding a ship at sea that is like a fishing vessel who discovers Godzilla, and they get their asses whooped. We get a giant sea leech that is attacking people in the beginning. It's interesting. But it mostly focuses around Godzilla is going to be coming back, and there's again the threat of nuclear war because Godzilla actually destroys a Russian sub, and the Russians think it's the Americans. Americans, of course, deny what's going on, and Japan wanted to hide the fact that they had found Godzilla, but of course they can't hide this fact anymore because otherwise the U.S. and Russia are going to start launching nukes at each other. Because, Cold War era bullshit, and Japan is, what happened to them during World War II, of course, is readily afraid of nuclear war. So they announced that Dracula, what the fuck is wrong with me? Godzilla Godzilla is actually the one that did it, and they have proof, and they show the proof, and they stop the Russians and the Americans, but they both want to fire nukes at Godzilla to stop him. But Japan now has something called Super X, which is like a mobile flying ship that supposedly can stop Godzilla. And of course, he comes to Tokyo. Now, Godzilla in this seems much, much smaller than in the other ones. Like, there's the giant buildings of Tokyo in this one. And he gets dwarfed by those buildings. You know what? It's actually kind of nice because it gives you a better perspective of what Godzilla... Like, Godzilla's not going to be as huge as he was before. But, it gives him a nice, like I said, kind of size perspective to maybe what he actually is. He's not way taller than the tallest buildings in Japan. He's, relatively mediocre in height in terms of a giant monster. And so he goes on a rampage. The human characters, they discover that Godzilla is actually kind of attracted to like the homing of birds. And so they devise a way, well, the professor and the reporter and two of his disciples, I guess, devise a way of attracting Godzilla to take him to a volcano to put him away for a while. More, of course, they want to attack him with a giant Super X thing. Well, he does come to land. The Russians accidentally set off a nuclear missile that's going to be coming towards them. And using Super X, they're able actually to stop Godzilla with types of rockets and then cadmium that they use to basically stop his heart. So, because his heart is basically like a nuclear reactor. And so if they do that, they can kind of freeze it. And so they think they've won, but of course the nukes come down, and the Americans stop the nuke, but it sends EMP waves, brings Godzilla back to life. Godzilla destroys the Super X, goes off, but he gets attracted by the professor's stuff to where he goes into a volcano, falls in, and he dies. Well, sort of dies. You don't know. There's a Godzilla song at the end and everything. So, the first thing is the Godzilla attacking the city scenes are interesting. Godzilla doesn't look bad. This is kind of the newer Godzilla now that we've got. What version of Godzilla is this? I don't know. But this is, unlike, I guess I should say like Terror of Mechagodzilla. Terror of Mechagodzilla is a direct sequel to Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, where this is kind of the direct sequel of Godzilla 1954. So this is the next version. And this could have been the one that was the savior of the planet. Or maybe we're in an alternate universe where Godzilla has somehow come back to life and now he's here. It's just kind of weird to see him going back and attacking, buildings and, destroying stuff and being shot by rockets again, and the reporters being fucking back. It's an interesting film, but you know what? It is slow. It is really slow. It's one of the longest ones too. It's at an hour and 40 minutes. All the other ones have been about an hour and a half, an hour and 20 minutes. They've been great. This one just drags in the beginning so terribly, to the point that I just almost had to stop like a couple times. But you know, it's still gotta finish the way through. So, like I said, interesting film. I like a lot of the themes that they have going for it, but it's just so slow that it kind of ruins the experience. And then when Godzilla comes, there's not a whole lot that's going on. But you know, the other thing is that everything that happens now, the original Godzilla film, of course, is in black and white. A lot of it happened at night. But as we turned to color, we saw Godzilla fighting in the daytime all the time. It was always nice and bright. From now on, I think we get some daytime stuff, but most of these fights are going to be in the dark, if I remember correctly. And we're entering a period of time where I didn't really see a lot of these Godzilla films like growing up. Like the next one, I don't remember that one so much. So it's going to be fun going through some of these older ones. And there's some definitely in the 2000s I've never seen before. So we're entering that era where this is no longer nostalgia. Some of the stuff is really new. So with that being said, join me tomorrow for another of the 3131s for Godzilla in this Kaiju Fest that I'm doing before I go crazy. So see you then.